Hello everyone, my name is Jay Burcham. I'm the president of Prevenio Group, and today we're going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to parents everywhere, part of your Go Leaps for Parents system. Today we're going to be talking about fears and why parents fear, and we're also going to talk about why kids have fear. And if you're a parent, you know the fears that come along with daily parenting, whether that's your kid's health or any other issue. So let's look real closely at a couple of things. We're going to talk about the fears of parenting for children, preteens, teenagers, but also for parents and how you can overcome some of those fears, help your kids overcome some of the fears they're dealing with as well. So let's jump off starting with fear itself. You know, when you talk about fear, you've got to start at it from an emotional standpoint. And fear truly is an emotion, much like joy or sorrow or any other emotion. The difference is that fear creates a distressed state. And fear and stress actually go hand in hand. And in fact, when as a parent you have a lot of fear for what you're doing as a parent, how you're parenting, it affects your ability to parent. Just like with your kids, when they live in a state of fear, it affects their ability to make decisions. The way your body works is that when you're in a provocative situation, either your parasympathetic nervous system will kick in to trigger the relaxation response, or your sympathetic nervous system will kick in and trigger the fight or flight response. And all of a sudden you've got headaches and stomach aches and rapid heartbeat, tense muscles, perspiration, and inability to concentrate. In other words, everything that comes along with being a parent every day. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about fear and what people tend to fear. And let's start with your kids. You know, if you look at the little ones, and by little ones I mean 2 to 4-year-olds, typically those fears are manifested in things they really don't understand, whether that's noises or monsters or even things like toilet training and bath time and bedtime and bedwetting, small things. In other words, the younger they are, the less actual fear they tend to have. It's more worry, and the worry centers around things they just don't understand. And so when they grow a little bit, and this is actually a trend we're beginning to see, look at that 4 to 6-year-old bracket. All of a sudden you still have the monsters and imaginary creatures, but now we have issues like loss of a parent, divorce. And that's sad to think about a 4 to 6-year-old worrying about it, but the reason why is that as kids socialize, the realization that lots of kids are from single-parent homes, lots of families have broke up. And so kids fear that. Even kids from a broken home will have reticent or reactive fear to that. And then as kids continue to grow, ages 7 through 9, they begin to add issues such as being late for school because that points at them. That leads to that social rejection and criticism. And all of a sudden they begin personalizing. So look at the growth amongst our younger kids of things that they just don't understand and tend to worry about, to having an outward fear of the things around them changing, to beginning to internalize that. And then when you start looking at our preteens, and our preteens really begin to bifurcate fear. They have fears along the things that they're beginning to understand and beginning the thought process of, and some of them are scary. I think about kidnapping and being alone in the dark, wars, injury, war. There's so much bad on the news that kids can't help but understand that bad things out there. And it creates a fear that they tend to look at but not really internalize. But what they do begin internalizing are the fears of social rejection, being overweight. And look at the boys category, being different. Fear of sports, even the kids who are good at it because they're being measured. And boys tend to have a fear of girls. Then you look at the girls and it centers around not being smart enough, not being good enough for friends, their weight, the process of going through change, actual development. And so these preteens tend to have those fears that they understand are in the world around them, but they look to you to save them from that. They look to the parent to keep them safe, but it's those internalized fears that come with being in a very socialized environment such as a school setting. Those begin to grow and take hold and become more prominent. And so therefore you would expect that our teenagers would also have a very high quota of fear centered around that social intimacy, right? Look at this. The top fear of teenagers, number one, is losing a parent. Look at number 3, parental fighting. Even number 2, academic failure. Number 6, a poor report card. Those sorts of fears go right back to the parental relationship. Is mom, is dad, are they going to be there? Am I good enough? Are my parents, in a volatile state? Teenagers tend to worry more about that than even the younger kids. And even when you see things on there like being noticed, getting lost, ridiculed in class, those are far down the list, even though they're significant. They're far down the list for kids that are teenagers than is the parent and the family relationship. The reason why is they've gone through that growth stage where there's a lot of internalizing of fear. And so what they begin to do now is look to the safety net and the structure with which they have to deal with fear-inducing elements, and that needs to be at home. Well, don't leave parents out of it. Obviously, parents have daily fears as well, and when you look at the top 10 fears of parents for their children, was losing a child. Just a terrible thing to contemplate, to go through, and then you'll see things like illnesses. And then you look at like developmental delays and comparison to other parents, and then you get into things like my child's weight, my child's appearance, my child's popularity. And I often think everyone wants what's best for their kids, but what message do we send our kids when that's what we're concerned about? And so if kids are worried about losing a parent, they're worried about fighting, they have fears along those lines, shouldn't we be preparing ourselves to help them overcome those fears and deal with them on a daily basis? And in fact, we've got to be communicating that. And so there are 3 types of communication I really want you to give some thought to today. Number 1 is physical. This is for your 2-year-old. This is for your 17-year-old. You should hug your child every single day, several times a day, when you see them in the morning, when you see them in the afternoon. I don't care if they're a big, burly teenager or think they've outgrown. There is nothing more comforting than a mom or a dad holding their child, hugging them, affirming them, kissing them on the cheek. Even if your son, your 15-year-old son, acts embarrassed, dads, moms, kiss them on the cheek. It's affirming. It lets them know physically that they are loved, they are needed, and they are protected. Because think about those fears of the kids. They need that protection to be in place. The next type of communication is emotional. Now consider this. Your kids live in a highly socialized environment at school, and every day, every child is being measured, they're being compared, they're being looked at for achievement capacity, and every day they tend to not do as well as they think they should, and oftentimes on a daily basis, kids hear negative towards them. They need to hear 5 positives from you to overcome 1 negative from a peer. That means you need to tell your kids that you love them every day, and I mean at least 5 times a day. Tell them you love them when they're on their way to school. Tell them you love them when they get home. At the dinner table, sit down as a family. Tell them that you love them as a family. Tell your family you love them. Dads, if you want to show your kids that you love them, kiss mom. Moms, if you want to show that you love your kids, hug your dad, hug your husband, hug their dad, and then praise your children. You may think that your child doesn't care what you think. They do. Think back to those, fears of a teenager. They do care. Praise their appearance. Praise their intellect. Praise their personality. Tell them that they are worthy of friends. They're worthy of everything life has to offer. Build them up emotionally, recognizing that the world, whether it's from peers or from societal pop culture, is designed to tear them down. Even think about the commercials you tend to see on TV. It is a buildup of typically a non-attainable lifestyle so that by comparison you feel deficient. Praise your kids so that they can begin to develop the sense of self-worth. And that self-worth only comes when mom and dad begin to build it. And the final one is from a social standpoint. Even if your kids are teenagers and you think that they think you're not cool enough to spend time with, kids want to spend time with parents. And now if mom or dad acts too busy for kids, you can kill that desire really quick, but you can also rebuild it. And there is no such thing as quality time. Quantity matters. And that means you need to create time for your kids. And you need to create opportunities for your kids to succeed so that you can compliment them. whether that's building something together, cooking something together, going out on an outing together. Put them in an opportunity to succeed. In fact, give them the opportunities that would surprise them that you're entrusting to them, then really encourage them and compliment them as they succeed. Remember, it's going to take 5 positive events from you to overcome 1 negative event they're experiencing on a daily basis, and they're probably experiencing more than one just because of the numbers game. So you've got to step in and really make a difference. And so as we close, let me give you a couple of things to think about. With your little ones, think back to their fears. The way you help little ones overcome their fears is you assure their safety. You flat out tell them, Mom, Dad, we will always be here for you. And then do it. You can't just say it, but plan it. Talk to your kids. Understand at your home. You need to have an escape route for a fire, and you need to go over that with them. Help them understand that if you're out shopping, that you are going to demand them stay by your side and be close. If you're out at the grocery store, you teach your kids to stay right next to you where you can keep an eye on them. We're talking about little ones. And then this is a hard thing for parents to contemplate and understand, but you actually need to spend time with your kids helping them understand how to react should something bad happen. Help them understand that, if a stranger were to come up to them, not only do they say no, they have to understand how to scream, not my mom, not my dad. Because how many times have you been in a crowded store and heard a kid screaming or crying and think, I want someone to take that kid outside? Well, you don't want that to be your child, so plan for their safety. And then daily affirm them through hugs, through kisses, through time that you're investing in them. For your preteens, understand the changes they're going through, especially moms. When you have prepubescent boys, understand what they're going through, and don't put them in a position of being embarrassed. The quickest way to estrange your preteen from you is to put them in a compromised position physically because of the changes they're going through. So understand, if you need to read about it, read about it. If you need to take a class on it, take a class on it. Understand what's going on, dads, with your little girls, as all of a sudden they're not little girls anymore. Get involved. The best thing that can happen is through your continued involvement with your kids, they talk to you. And girls should talk to moms and ask questions about times when they're going through changes. Boys should be able to open up to dads, and even across sons to moms and daughters to dads. The way you do that is you over-communicate. When your kids don't really want to talk and they're I'm just giving you short answers, talk anyway. Never let them have for a minute a thought that you're not going to be there. Then for your teens, you're moving them towards independence, and they're rapidly moving themselves towards independence. Remind them daily how important they are to you. Remind them that it wasn't just when they were a little kid that you cared. And you do this by putting your arm around them, telling them that you're proud of them, giving them a hug, kissing them on the cheek, telling them you love them, telling them how nice they look, how smart they are, how well they're achieving. Build them up. And then never forget, even though your 15-year-old son may be taller than you, even though your 16-year-old daughter may look like she's ready to enter the workforce, they are still kids. And a teenager is still a kid in many ways. We just have expectations that our kids ought to grow faster now than we ever have before because of the information age we live in. But don't force them into growing up too quick. Let them be kids, and then assure them that you're there for them. So use your words. Words can counter fears, whether it's a little one and saying, hey, you're safe. As long as mom and daddy are around, you are safe. Words can reassure. Words can build. Remember, if the world's tearing down, you've got to be building up just as fast. I can't say this enough. Tell your kids, I love you. Tell them you're special to me. Tell them I'm so glad you're mine. Tell them you look great. Tell them how smart they are. Give them the compliments that build them up. It also draws them to you. And then when they're at a time when things aren't going well, they'll look for you not only for that compliment to help overcome it, they're going to look to you for help and support. That's when you can get in and really make a difference. And don't just use your words. Use your actions. Hug your child. Kiss your child. praise your child. And when I say child, I don't care if they're 2 or 17. You ought to hug and kiss them every day. Spend time with them. This is a busy world, but you know what? They are going to be gone so quick. Time is going to pass so fast. Make the time to spend with your kids, and not just times in instruction. Play with them. Get games out. If they're little ones, play the little silly board games they tend to love. If they're older, play a video game with them. Get out and play catch with them. Ride a bike. Go for a walk. Laugh with them. There's nothing better than finding common interest with your kids. Then as they grow into preteens and teens, allowing those interests to evolve so that they have something in common with you. That way when your child ends up in a feared position, in a position of worry or stress, you can be there to worry with them. And what that does is it gives them the sounding board to grow through that worry and not let the worry impact their capacity to grow. The results of all that? Parents who care are parents who are there. Parents who are there can relieve fears, both yours and your kids, because you will know how your kids are doing socially, emotionally, and physically. And that's what truly matters. So parents, get out there today. Count your kids as an absolute blessing. Spend time with them. Help them make a difference for them and your family. And good luck with parenting, because fear is absolutely a part of it, but so is overcoming. Have a great day.